The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit. The man seated next to me is always telling stories about hanging out with that other guy from Wham. His name is Mike Roth.
Yeah, I forgot what his name is, so
Yeah?
we'll just call him that other guy.
I know, and that's the most infuriating part. You're always telling these
You know
stories.
what's more infuriating?
Yeah?
Being that other guy from Wham.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I think he's still alive at least, R.I.P.
Yeah,
But yeah, he's...
but you think. And that's
For
sad.
$1 million, could you name the other guy from Wham?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just give me some time.
Somewhere out there, Andrew Ridgely is crying because, again, he is unnamed. It's
So
unfortunate.
you know that name.
I have the internet. I looked it up right before the show.
Oh, nice. You look up some weird things.
Yeah, it's true. Speaking of very weird things, let's get into what we have on the marquee this week, and I am going to get us started with a movie that is a sequel to a film that came out a couple of months ago. We bring back one of our favorites. Tommy Wiseau is back, who we love from The Room and The Disaster Artist, with Best Friends Volume 2. Now, we had the first version of this, Part 1, a couple of months ago, and that was a strange, fun trip. This is a two movies, Part 1 and Part 2 movies, written by Greg Sestero, his friend, based on kind of, sort of actual events, not really. This movie picks up immediately after the first movie. Like, there's no recap. There's no, like, hey, in case you forgot what happened in the first one, we're just jumping right in on it. And in the first one, Tommy Wiseau plays a guy named Harvey who was a mortician who was super creepy, hired Greg Sestero's character John to do some things. John stole all of Harvey's gold teeth that he had collected to sell for fortune. Weird. So
It sounded like it really needed a recap because I remember the story.
Yeah.
And then it goes into an alien thing later, right?
something.
Yeah.
So this one we pick up, and John and his girlfriend Tammy now, Tommy is possibly dead at this point, and he has an ATM machine that he sticks all his money into, and so John and Tammy steal the ATM from Harvey, and they are on the run trying to get to Colorado because that's where they're gonna get somebody to break into it for them, and they're gonna retire in Colorado in the mountains if they can just get away. Harvey shows back up. Weird part about this movie is Tommy Wiseau.
The weird part?
The very weird.
The only one?
Part one of the weird parts. Tommy Wiseau's face is never shown in the first until the final 3 minutes of the movie. He is either wearing a death mask, a silicone mask that he made of John's face, that he wears like Sounds of the Lamb style over his own, or for no reason he will wear a knight's helmet, like Monty Python Holy Grail, like big knight's helmet, and a like bomb protective suit that he walks around in.
And he said no reason?
No explanation at all why he's wearing the knight's helmet.
What about the face?
There's no explanation why he wears the face. Sometimes the face underneath the helmet. So he'll take the helmet off, then there's a rubber face of John. Because.
Do you think it was Tommy inside that?
Who knows? That's the thing. So anyways, we go and we meet a bunch of different characters as they're trying to get this ATM open. And there's some shootouts and some double turns, and Tommy's marching around with his helmet time to time. The story makes zero sense to me. Like, the first one was fun. It was dumb, but it was fun.
Yeah.
This movie was surreal. It was aimless, and it was boring. And I think a big part of it is a big draw is Tommy. And when you don't even see Tommy for the entire movie, you're like, okay, he's kind of if you're going to make a bad movie, at least have somebody that's fun.
I think Tommy likes to be a man of mystery. And what makes mystery more than never showing up?
This movie has so many bad things. One of my big pet peeves is like within the same scene where it goes from day to night and back to day, where like there's no continuity when they shot things.
Yeah.
So you're talking to me, it's daylight. The camera cuts to me, it's nighttime. You people are terrible at making movies. It was funny though because there was an interview with Tommy and Greg Sestero beforehand, and Greg, who wrote this movie, compared this film. He said this is Breaking Bad meets Nightcrawler. I would disagree because both of those are very good.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this was not. I enjoyed the first one, but this started to really feel like it was really self-indulgent. There wasn't enough going on. I don't think anything was cut. I think they shot 4 hours and didn't cut anything. Because there was not enough in here for a 2-part movie. There just wasn't.
Maybe when he was making that comparison of Breaking Bad and Nightcrawler, maybe he was saying something along the lines of it's possible two well-adjusted parents could have a really screwed up kid.
I don't know. It was just weird. There was no interesting characters. I was kind of bummed. I was hoping for something exciting.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was just kind of, it could have been an hour-and-a-half movie instead of a 3.5-hour 2-part movie.
Yeah.
So indulgent and just no good. So unfortunately, I think the first one I gave like on a fun factor, I gave like a 2.5, 3.
Yeah.
This one is a weak 1.5 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, well, you live and learn.
Oh,
What
well,
do you have for us?
let's talk about Action Point.
Okay.
Directed by Tim Kirkby, we're bringing back kind of the Jackass people again. Really only 2.
Yeah.
We have Johnny Knoxville, he plays DC, and we have Chris Pontus, who is one of his employees at Action Point. DC, he has this kind of a backwoods, falling apart theme park. Pretty much all man-made stuff that he did on himself. So everything's kind of rickety, old, looks like it's falling apart. There's really no rules. Kids are doing whatever they want. And a neighboring theme park, an actual theme park that's safe.
Like a Six Flags.
Like a Six Flags opens up really close by. Well, Johnny Knoxville has to do what he needs to do in order to save this park, which means decrease the rules. Now, yeah, I just explained a little bit of a story, but most of this is all about the Jackass guys being able to still do some of their stunts. The thing is these guys are well in their they're either in their late 40s or early 50s by now, and they fall really well. They could take a hit really well, but it's not the same as what they were doing back in the 90s. And it just, to me, it felt sad.
Johnny Knoxville got more hurt in this movie than he has in anything else. I saw an interview with him where he said that his left eye came out of the socket where the last couple days of shooting, they could only shoot the right side of his face because his left eyeball kept coming out.
Well, he is not as well put together as he used to be.
He could take a hit.
He
said he got 4 concussions while making this movie.
And that's another thing. He's had so many concussions, it's not even a thing when he gets concussions. It's you could probably put a hat on the guy and he would just lose consciousness.
The weird thing is based on a true story. An actual guy back in the 70s who had his action park, which was so dangerous that it led to 6 deaths. And they shut it down, and then he reopened it again later, and he shut down and reopened again. So this is based on a true story. This is nowhere near the events of it, but there was a place called Action Park. You know what was weird for me with this one is there wasn't enough Jackass, but there also wasn't enough of a narrative story for me to care.
No.
And Johnny Knoxville and especially Chris Pontius are terrible actors.
Yes.
And so you had good actors in this movie. I thought there were some interesting characters of the people that were in there, some of the kids that I like as actors, and I thought were interesting characters that they gave like nothing to do.
Like that four-finger.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting guys, and the one girl who was like the lead. I liked them, and they were just kind of given nothing, to the detriment of like, well, let's have Chris Pontius out there trying to do something. It didn't work.
No, and when I was going to see this, I was kind of expecting maybe the extremes of Jackass, where things were, yeah, people are getting hurt, but it's hurt in creative ways and stuff like that. Where this one, it's just like, I've seen people do this before, and you're watering down what is something that's a good 25 years
It could have been a fun movie, because taking that story and doing something with it and having real actors, and I think it could have been an interesting movie, because it's an interesting set of circumstances. But then it was like every time you would start to have something, father-daughter dynamic or something going on, it was like, okay, we've got to have somebody get hit in the nuts.
Yeah.
It's been 5 minutes, guys. Nobody's been clubbed in the nuts.
Yeah.
And so it just felt like they were just kind of jamming in pratfalls in the middle of it, and so it just, like I said, it felt like it was weak on both versions. Like we didn't get anything strong.
The only thing I really did enjoy about this movie, not enough to give it a good score by any means, but I did like the set. I thought the set was really cool. But that's
felt like a 70s.
Yeah, a 70s clockwork makeshift.
Yeah.
Your own thing.
What'd you give the old action point?
I gave it a 0.5. And a lot of this is because
that's the lowest score of the year.
I haven't given it a 0 yet. Yeah. And this movie was just sad and boring, and it made me a little depressed when it was supposed to make me happy. So 0.5, bad story, bad acting.
That's rough.
And I felt like, oh my gosh, these guys.
I was rough on it. I gave it 1.5 stars.
There we go.
Yikes.
Yeah, I would never want to see this movie again.
It's a very forgettable movie, is what it is. It's just like, it's there, and if in 5 years, like, remember Action Point? You have to tell me again. Like, what was that one again?
I think this one's so bad that I'll remember it, and because it made me feel bad for these. I mean, I know a lot of the Jackass guys didn't have great futures after Jackass.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drugs, a lot of abuse that they put themselves through that kind of makes them handicapped in a way.
Yeah.
But this was just a display. It just kind of showed them, hey, look at these guys and how far they could still fall. I don't know. I didn't like it.
The next movie we have on the marquee is a movie called Adrift from director Balthazar Kormaker. Stars Shailene Woodley as Tammy Oldham. Now, this is based on a true story. There's a real lady named Tammy Oldham who wrote this movie.
A lot of true stories going on here.
Right. And the fact that she wrote this movie should right away tell you who she lives. No surprise, she's the writer. It also stars Sam Claflin as a man named Richard. Shailene Woodley, the movie opens with the destruction and fallout of Hurricane Raymond as she wakes up on this sailboat and the boat is destroyed. She doesn't know what to do. And then jumps back to her months before. She is a traveler without a destination. She just kind of likes to go wherever the winds blow her. Traveling around, she ends up in New Zealand. She finds a kindred spirit who travels the globe on his boat in Richard. The two of them, they have a little courtship. They start to fall in love, and he is asked to sail a boat from New Zealand to San Diego for someone. And so they take this boat. They take the boat. The weird thing is, this movie is told in a strange way because it cuts back and forth. Like I say, it opens up with the aftermath of this hurricane on the boat. So you know already kind of the result of everything. And so then it cuts back and forth in time jumps constantly, where we go to them on the boat, and then it cuts back to them like courting each other. And then they're on the boat, and it cuts to her, they're doing this. And sometimes the cuts and the time jumps are after like a scene is mere seconds long. 40 seconds of them on the boat, and then cut again.
Yeah.
And then we see them messing around, and we cut back real quick. And so after a while, it just gets like, I just want to get invested in one part of this story, and you're not allowing me because you keep jumping time. But I really like Shailene Woodley. I think she's a really good young actress. And I thought she did a good job here. Sam Claflin he's injured badly. And so she has to try and figure out the sailboat that has a broken mast, no engine. They're drifting aimlessly. And she has to try and figure out how to navigate and do all these things to save their lives, and decides to shoot for Hawaii. And if they miss it, they're out on their own. And so it should be more foreboding than it is, but they never show like the scale. They never show like how alone they are. Everything's really up close when they're on the boat.
Okay.
So you never truly get the scale of like, we are in the middle of nowhere, and so it was kind of frustrating. It's a movie about them trying to kind of maintain their sanity, and the actual storm that destroys the boat doesn't come till we're like over an hour into the movie.
Oh.
So you're kind of waiting for that, like, okay,
Yeah.
good, so how bad was the storm? I want to see it. We don't really get that. It's interesting, though, I was reading about it, that the movie was shot on the ocean. They've been out to sea 12 hours a day, every day, shooting this movie. So it looks authentic as far as that goes.
Yeah, Waterworld did the same
Yeah,
thing.
right. That's a huge success, too. There's a twist towards the end, which kind of ruins the movie for me.
Okay.
It kind of makes it one of these movies that I won't watch again because of that. I'll tell you off air.
Yeah, because I'm thinking the twist is she wrote a book.
Yeah, she wrote a book, all right. But yeah, I wish that I could have gotten more invested into these characters if they would have just left it with them doing one thing or the other for a little while.
Yeah.
It's an interesting movie, and Shailene Woodley's really good, and so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I was hoping for more out of a Lost at Sea type movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 out of 5. We'll get by with that.
All right.
What's the last one we have on the marquee, sir?
Last movie, pleasant surprise for me, really was. Upgrade. So this is a sci-fi horror movie, also an action movie. It's all 3 of those, pretty solid. This is directed and written by Leigh Whannell. We have Logan Marshall Green. He plays Gray Trace. Him and his girlfriend, Asha, played by Melanie Villeo. Sure. They are in a terrible accident. They were murdered. She was murdered, and he was severely injured after someone shot him in the neck.
Yeah.
He lost all sensation below his neck, and he undergoes a little surgery where they implant a robotic microchip into his spine, where his brain can communicate with STEM, and he'll be able to control his body through STEM. This is top secret. This is a kind of a product that will be out in the future, so everything needs to be hush-hush. No one needs to talk about this. He finds out that STEM has an artificial intelligence. This is played by Simon Maiden, his voice. And all this sort of things happen as he's trying to investigate the murder of his Was it girlfriend? Yeah.
Wife. No, because she calls him husband. She calls her wife. Come on, husband.
So, as he's going through, he's also communicating with STEM. I don't want to talk too much more about this, because this is kind of a thriller, and talking too much about this movie could ruin some really great moments.
One of the great things about this movie is throughout this trailer, is there's some really interesting camera work as the STEM kind of controls his actions for him.
Yeah.
So there's great fight scenes where he's not in control of his body.
Yeah.
And the camera work and just his physicality of making that look interesting,
Uh-huh.
I really liked. That was surprising to me. And the fact that they really took, this is set in the future, it's a digital world, and he's kind of an analog guy in the digital world. He's a guy who's a throwback. He uses hands. He works on old muscle cars. He's not the digital age guy. He's very different.
Somewhat of a technophobe.
Great.
Yeah. Which kind of makes this a little bit cooler, because he is the guy who makes cars, and he's hesitant about something like this, and to learn to trust this thing that is in him was interesting.
Well, and you also have villains that have tech in them. You have villains that have shotguns built into their arms that come out of their wrists. And, there's some interesting things with that. And you kind of get into the thing of, of Gray and Stem kind of collaborating to track the killers down. And that's kind of fun.
And there's some hilarious moments when he allows his body to lose control to Stem. There's a couple of action scenes where Gray, he can't fight, really. I mean, he could, but not that
way.
well.
Yeah.
And so he just does the Matrix thing, but instead of it being in his brain, he's like, Stem, take control, and Stem uses its infinite knowledge to be able to do the kung fu that... And those scenes were hilarious. And I loved how when Gray walks, it wasn't just like he was walking like a human. He is walking like what happened if a robot was saying, this is how you're going to walk.
So this is what you do. Technically, you put this leg and then you put that leg.
Yep, and he's straight and stiff, and he moves his head left and right. I love that. I thought the way he acted through this was fantastic.
Speaking of acting, the big drawback to this movie was the guy who played Aaron, who was the guy who created STEM, Harrison Gilbertson, and he was the guy who invented STEM. You know, it's a better brain. I can have miraculous results. Every time he showed up on screen, he was pretty lousy, in my opinion. He was a really weak actor in a role that could have been really interesting, and I thought that he was just kind of blah.
Well, I think they kind of realize that. It's pretty much a one-man show. You only see Aaron every once in a while. I think the villains, the cybernetic villains, that he was more interesting than this other character, Aaron. But
I like the questions this movie brings up, though. Like, of what are the implications of becoming a passenger in your own body, basically? Yeah. Like, okay, I can be a regular human, but I have this thing. I have amazing powers, but I don't have control when those powers are going on. I'm basically just a passenger in an automated vehicle. I don't have control over it. Is that living? Am I human anymore? I like those questions about those implications, because this may seem like a crazy future, but really, if you look at some of these sci-fi movies like this, like things that you thought 15, 20 years ago, like, oh, that's crazy future. It's happening right now.
Yeah, and that's another thing I liked about this is the sci-fi in this felt real. Now, they had the automated cars. We see those coming down the future.
People every day.
The logic between the brain being able to communicate with something that just bridges a gap from the spinal cord, that seemed possible. It didn't seem like magic.
Nanotech is a thing.
The only thing that really threw me off is the end of the movie. There's a couple of questions I thought they should have addressed a little bit in the middle, and it felt a little sloppy, but I congratulate them on trying to get to that point. I just didn't think, I think they missed a couple of lines that actors should have said in order to explain the ending a little better.
I agree. And so ultimately, I was really pleasantly surprised by that trailer. I wasn't expecting anything. I didn't really even know what I was getting in for. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it's a good movie. It's the best movie of the week.
Absolutely, yeah. I gave it a 4. I thought it was funny. It was fun. I love the action. I like the horror elements. I like the sci-fi. It's barking up my tree. It really is, Yeah,
it's a very pleasant surprise. So this week for our throwback, we tried to tie together amusement parks and maybe killer robots. Right?
Yeah.
And so we stumbled across a great one, Westworld, 1973. It's almost perfect.
It is. I think it is perfect for the meld of our movies. It really is.
1973, written and directed by Michael Crichton. It stars Richard Benjamin, James Brolin, and Yul Brynner. It's a story. It's really the story that Michael Crichton wrote that inspired him to write Jurassic Park. Kind of the same thing. An amusement park where the animals take over. It's very much the same movie. But anyways, there's an amusement park for adults that allows you to visit other eras and be kind of completely interactive. I want to visit ancient Rome. I want to visit. And so we are following these two characters played by Richard Benjamin and James Brolin, who want to go to Westworld, live out life in 1880s Wild West, right? And it's completely interactive, and the robots in this world are indistinguishable from humans.
Except for the hands.
Except for the hands. They look close. So these guys go to Westworld, and it's gonna be so much fun. And while they're there, they get into it with a guy called the Gunslinger, played by Yul Brynner, who is terrifying. As he always is, because Yul Brynner just talking, in The King and I, he's terrifying to me. Like he's a weird guy. And the Gunslinger has it out for him, and there's several shootouts. And trying to figure out who's human, who's not, what's going on, how do we get out, what happens when the robots stop following commands and things start getting real.
I love this movie.
It's
I really
great.
do. It is fantastic. There is a lot of people out there who love the series, which I have not watched,
Right.
and they don't realize that there is a movie based on that series. You have to see this movie. It is fantastic. It holds up
It
extremely
really does.
well. Yeah.
I was shocked not having seen this movie in so long and watching it expecting it to be kind of cheesy
Yeah.
and the effects to be terrible.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I was into it
Yeah.
all over again. It's a lot of fun.
I just watched this maybe 3 months ago, and I watched it happily this week. This is a great movie.
It really is. I really enjoy it. Young James Brolin in this thing too, man. Good grief.
I love how the robots, they're all so human, and then
Yeah.
you have that split second before they do a cutscene where all of a sudden they're robots again.
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds cheesy if you saw
It's
it.
a great movie.
Really.
And if you enjoy the Westworld series and haven't seen this, you have to watch it.
I really have to watch the Westworld series, don't I?
Yeah, I think
okay.
so. So anyways, that is our throwback this week, Westworld. Let's take a look ahead real quick at what is going to be coming soon. We are looking at June 13th. I believe that is a Wednesday. We have Superfly coming out. June 15th, yes?
From the guys from The Matrix?
Sure.
Yeah, the writers or
Wachowskis?
something. Yeah, something like that.
June 15th, a couple of big movies. We have Incredibles 2.
Yeah,
the
I know you're
sequel.
stoked.
I've been waiting like, 12 years or whatever for this movie. It's ridiculous. Can't wait for this. Also coming out that weekend is Tag.
Another true story.
Based on a true story. Interesting, though, is that they said that Jeremy Renner broke both his arms in the early days of making this movie. So his arms in this movie are CGI the entire time because they put him in 2 green casts when he broke his arms. So watch Tag knowing that those are not Jeremy Renner's arms tagging people.
I'm interested if they could do that better than removing
I
Superman's
hope
mustache.
so, because that was a tragedy. When I read that, though, I was like, I've got to see this movie just for that, nothing else.
Yeah.
See some CGI arms through the whole movie.
I'm getting to the point where anytime someone says, based on real life events, I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
But this one, yeah, it looks funny.
We'll see.
Just because people are making... I'll get into it later off air.
All right, fine. All right. Well, before we leave you, of course, we have to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, The Palace. Thank you for sponsoring the show. I'm gonna spend half my night tonight at the Palace, just hanging out, watching movies. Yeah. Why not?
Go take care of a bunny rabbit. Different story.
Different
Again, if you want to find out, go to Facebook, ask me.
Ask Mike anything. If you want to find us online, you can do so at the aforementioned Facebook. We are on there if you search Real Reviews TV. We're also on Twitter at Real Reviews TV. You can find a bunch of our past episodes by going to YouTube, searching Real Reviews KSUN, KSUN, or by going to sunprairiemediacenter.com, clicking on the on-demand feature. You can see a bunch of previous episodes.
A lot.
Yeah, I don't even know, 216 or something like that.
Yeah, when I retire, I'll watch all of them.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Yeah, neither can I.
Next week, we've got some interesting movies we'll be talking about. We've got Hereditary, the A24 horror film, hoping to kind of break free from the doldrums of A24 horror films.
Yeah.
We have Hotel Artemis, a.k.a. The Continental.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
And we have Ocean's 8. I heard that's based on a real story.
They're all based on real stories.
Just saying. So that's what we'll be talking about next week, as well as a super fun throwback, to be sure. But until next week, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.